WhatsApp business messaging is huge in all of the emerging markets. India, APAC, Latin America, the Middle East. It's just really grown there, and there's a huge ecosystem for it. I mean, when you walk down the street in Sao Paulo, you see on every storefront their WhatsApp number, in India, as well. It's really like a utility there. It's just the way you talk to businesses, and not even like online businesses, but like your mom and pop shops. Like several times I've been in India and I need to buy a product that I left at home and want to travel with, and I'll WhatsApp the salesperson, ask them if they have it. They send me a payment link, and then they deliver that item to my hotel. And that's just the way commerce is done in a lot of these, different regions.
Win all in, play my cards right. Up the ante, won blackjack all night. Roll the dice, let it ride. Water the odds, I got snake eyes.
This podcast exists because of the team at CASCM. CASCM is a B2B content production company helping organizations create and share their stories. We aim to create space where businesses can build assets and drive revenue through writing and talking. Content creation should be enjoyable and accessible. At CASCM, we love helping make that happen. Learn more at cascm.com.
So it might be good, I think, to start with Gupshup and simply explaining it. It's funny because I'll get on AI, be like, all right, explain this to me like I'm in middle school or high school, or whatever that might be, just to understand it at a basic level. And then I kind of level up from there to say, okay, how could I apply it in certain businesses that I'm involved in? But I think it might be useful for anyone listening to understand it at that basic level of what you all do at Gupshup.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're the world's largest conversational engagement platform, and we help brands engage customers, two-way conversations, mostly on channels like WhatsApp and RCS. There's really this amazing emergence of technology, really with the advancements in AI and LLMs that enable brands to, really speak at scale to millions of users at the same time. We really call this like the emergence of like the conversational internet, where these messaging applications like RCS or WhatsApp are becoming the next generation of web browsers like Google Chrome or Firefox, and the chatbots and chat applications are becoming websites. You can do everything on a chatbot that you can on a mobile app or a website today, but it's much more engaging. It's in the consumer's natural language, and it really feels like you're speaking with, just friends and family, but it's just that level of engagement. So it's really big in emerging markets. That's where I spend a lot of my time. And
okay. Yeah. And I see, you go to your website and you see like Citibank, you see Netflix, or not Netflix necessarily, but like banks, airlines, or cable, what used to be cable companies, phone companies, internet companies, things like this, where they have very complex customer service infrastructures that everybody's accessing these companies on a daily basis. Are these the types of companies that are using it in a platform to make that process for them much simpler?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All these companies are leveraging Gupshup. We really see this emergence of this like agentic space, and these companies are leveraging now AI agents, to help with customer support, sales use cases.
Yeah.
Where, they'll train, using AI and LLMs, to have an AI conversational interface that really helps customers solve purchasing, clothing, sales, customer support inquiry. Yeah, for all the brands you just mentioned.
Yeah. And back up real quick, some people will understand this because they've, been involved with AI now. And then you say AI agents, right? So some people will be aware of it, some people not. And it's a common term that you're seeing a lot. If you could break that down simply as well.
Yeah. Our CEO really explains this well. Like AI is really, in terms of what we're seeing in the world, it's really a big technology shift where we're seeing humans previously speaking computer language, where we're clicking and typing things in. I mean, if you go to one of your favorite, retail sites and you want to make a transaction, you probably have to do, 15 clicks and searching and typing your address in and go through a bunch of pages. And that actually takes like an understanding of how websites work, which I think, we've just really adopted today. But Now we're in this phase of computers being able to speak to humans, computers being able to speak, in our natural language. And a lot of folks and, analysts are saying that, chat is becoming, the new UX. And, now that we have this technology where computers can speak, human language, I can just type in on WhatsApp, hey, I'd like to see options for red t-shirts. And at a, retail site, it can show me a bunch of options, images, carousels. I can select it right there, type my address in the chat log, pay in some regions directly in WhatsApp, and I have a conversational commerce experience. That's really emerging on these platforms. And then agents are the new word that I think we're hearing a lot. And what an AI agent is, just like today we have support human agents, for sales support on different, sites. An AI agent is really just an AI interface that is using LLMs to provide similar type service. We can train AI agents using business logic, PDFs, a lot of, similar training materials that you train a human agent, but you can connect an AI agent to business APIs so that, directly in the conversational experience, you can, pull inventory, do shipping, do payments, do all of these connections with an AI agent. And you can do this at scale. And this actually really is relevant for like holiday periods. I think the days of like waiting on hold for hours at a
Yeah.
time are really going away with this technology. I mean, think about Black Friday sale where there's, just like a mad rush. Like
Yeah.
with AI agents, you can serve limitless number of customers all at the same time with no hold times, a really top flight experience, up-to-date inventory. You can really like scale your best salesperson and the talent of the best person on your team within your organization and provide that same level of service to everyone
Yeah.
with AI. It's really exciting.
And then when you're in that chat, I would imagine, right, like this day and age, we're constantly looking at reviews. We need more information, more data. Like, how do I make this decision? You want to buy this multivitamin versus this t-shirt, and you're looking at tens of thousands of reviews, and it becomes overwhelming. I would imagine with the AI agent and like what you all are building with these different companies, that you can filter that out. The AI agent can do the work for you, so you're not left scrolling and trying to figure out what's right, what's wrong.
Yeah, that's a really great, interesting point. I think a lot of our shopping and, e-commerce habits are driven by convenience and then to maximize, I think sales for a lot of merchants. But I think with AI and LLMs and conversational commerce, this all changes. A lot of the relationship, dynamics, brands today can personalize their AI, on language preferences and conversational preferences. That's something that we actually focus a lot on at Gupshup with a conversational CDP, is we can personalize conversations on, tonality, sentiment, and all these conversational parameters so that customers really feel like they're speaking with, close friend, or the brand really conversationally caters and personalizes the experience for each customer.
Yeah. So one of the industries that we're involved with is we built an insurance brokerage company, right? So we represent like the John Hancocks of the world, Prudential's, Principals, Lincoln Financial. And these are huge insurance companies that have multiple lines of insurance. And this is an archaic industry in many ways, right? They're running off of legacy systems, oftentimes from I don't know how many decades ago. And they're trying to change it because they have old life insurance policies that were built in the 1970s or, geez, even earlier, right? And they're very difficult, even if you call someone to try to learn about the product. The new people there don't know about that information. You got to go find someone like in the basement to try to help you out with it. And, a lot of times now, as we manage multiple policies, so then you have multiple clients, if you try to call up a John Hancock, because you just have to, and you can pull some of their information from their database, you might be on hold for a long time. And then let's say you do get somebody on the phone. It's like I always tell the team, it's like, it's not that individual's fault that they don't have the training for it. I mean, they just have the staff and they might be overseas. And so now I'm talking about customer service, call centers, but I'm also talking about complex matters, like very difficult situations. And then you're dealing with life and death oftentimes.
Yeah.
And emotion. So I've always thought like, and there's like insure tech and fintech and all this, and it's ripe for disruption and it's happening already, but it's not happening fast enough. But I would imagine like at some point, these things are not, I say these people, it's going to create new jobs, right? But these things have to be replaced because the industry stalls out. Oftentimes, the process of buying a life insurance policy will stall out because someone's like, I'm out. It's like to your point, like I don't want to go into, let's just say Best Buy today because I don't want to deal with the long lines. I'd rather try to order this online and have a seamless process. So when I think of that and I think of like these archaic industries that exist that need support on the customer service side, take that in the direction you want as to like when I'm saying that, what comes to mind for you?
Yeah. No, a lot comes to mind. I think we all navigate towards convenience, right? And we really see that with technology, like with mobile apps, a lot of, commerce and, different industries that shifted from being in person and over the phone to on desktops to doing on mobile apps. And I think there's even more of a shift now to conversations. I think in like 5 years, like what you just described with like insurance, and I know that's something I think you have a lot of familiarity with. Like, I think we're going to look at like the insurance process now is just like totally old school and
Yeah.
broken. I mean, you're waiting on hold, you're speaking to a rep, then you're getting a form emailed to you that you then have to complete, and then you have to email it back to them, and then they have to call you. And it's a huge process. We actually have enabled like insurance sales agents where through a conversation on WhatsApp, they're able to ask you a few questions and within minutes send you an insurance quote right there in WhatsApp on PDF, which you can accept. And, I think today, I mean, just, humans and consumers are just so accustomed to spending time on messaging apps that, with the enablement of AI and LLMs, just the ability to have these conversations with brands is incredibly convenient. They're not getting a push notification or downloading an app or searching for a website. They might get a friendly prompt for you on WhatsApp. They're on that, app multiple times a day. They'll see it and engage a conversation with you just in the same way that they pick up conversations with friends and family. And yeah, I think the days of waiting on hold and completing multiple forms and emailing things back and forth, like the brands that don't adopt these new technologies, I think are going to fall behind because it really is all about convenience.
Yeah. And you see it as well. My wife's been in commercial and residential real estate, and family's been involved in that. That's another one. Before, right? The sales process of working with your customers and the research that goes involved with looking for homes, right? And then going to see the homes, and then you get a contract on the home, and then you got the mortgage, and you got the insurance, and you got the state that's involved, and all the paperwork that's going back and forth. I mean, you have constant emails and phone calls back and forth to try to navigate this entire process. And this is, I don't know how big the real estate industry is, and you get the commercial side of things. I know people deal with that just the same. And we could take that in many ways because you brought it up before because it's not just customer service, it's not just customer engagement. You brought up sales, which, obviously you're a big proponent of, and you talk quite a bit about that in previous podcasts you've been on and articles that you've been featured in, the sales side of things, because that's constantly changing, right? The days of just walking into someone's office are kind of, why are you here, right? Or calling someone on the phone or sending a blast email. You're like, good luck getting through my spam filter. You have customers that get sent to spam, right? But anyway, in saying all that on the sales side of things, when you like pick an industry, right? This is obviously, and you brought this up before, is going to change everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've seen that example that you just mentioned earlier in our conversation. Yeah, I headed to Dubai next week, and we work with a lot of like leading real estate firms. And Dubai is known for like being the most like technology advanced market in the world and having the best of everything. That's really part of the culture. And we work with a ton of real estate firms there who are really launching new properties, millions of dollar properties, and their, first engagement form for sales with customers is on WhatsApp. They run click to WhatsApp advertisements on Facebook. Customer clicks on the ad, has a conversation, gives their phone number, and then very often that salesperson is first steps in that transaction is conversing with that customer on WhatsApp, sending them a live video and connecting through WhatsApp with that customer, setting up a showing on WhatsApp through that customer. We're seeing like a combination of AI and human agents, especially in these fields as well, where, when you have a really wide funnel, sales speak at the beginning, you have like a AI generated form. And then once they get to a higher conversion point deeper in the funnel, then you have a human agent interact in some of these, larger ticket transactions. But I could really see this moving entirely to AI, and you can buy a house from an AI agent,
Yeah.
at some point in the future. Like, that's definitely not out of the question. I mean, once you see this technology, work, you really can't look back. It's really exciting.
And you mentioned going to the Middle East and a lot of work there, and you also mentioned developing countries where this is picking up, and people have WhatsApp here, right? But I know when I talk to someone not in the US, WhatsApp is like a main form of communication. It's like sometimes like maybe the super app to some degree, right? Where it's just like everything that they do is running through that. Where is the US on that, whatever, that spectrum of getting to the point where it's going to be maybe similar? Maybe it's WhatsApp, maybe it's like a Facebook version of that. Where are we there?
Yeah. It's very much like the super app concept, as you mentioned. Like, WhatsApp business messaging is huge in all of the emerging markets: India, APAC, Latin America, the Middle East. It's just really grown there, and there's a huge ecosystem for it. I mean, when you walk down the street in Sao Paulo, you see on every storefront their WhatsApp number, in India, as well. It's really like a utility there. It's just the way you talk to businesses, and not even like online businesses, but like your mom and pop shops. Like, several times I've been in India and I need to buy a product that I left at home and want to travel with, and I'll WhatsApp the salesperson, ask them if they have it. They send me a payment link, and then they deliver that item to my hotel. And that's just the way commerce is done in a lot of these, different regions. I think for the US, just the US has been very like app and, website driven for a number of years. And for messaging, there's a lot of iPhone usage also in the US. And previous to just a couple months ago, two-way messaging on RCS was not allowed, on the iPhone. And there's just been some, restrictions. Also, the telcos have done a really great job in the US with preserving SMS and making that, less spammy. But I think this business messaging two-way driven, ecosystem in the US has a lot of potential. And I think we'll see it a lot next year. It was just a couple months ago, Apple released RCS messaging, which enables two-way messaging on iPhones. So there's a lot of chat in the industry about that taking off. And I think the WhatsApp consumer numbers for pure consumer, friends and family transactions, conversations is really increasing. So I think it has a lot of potential in the US, and just the growth rates are really high globally. I spent a lot of time in marketing automation, working in email, and a lot of the early emergence of push notifications. And at the end of the day, I think brands really move to what channels are most engaging. Where do they see the highest open rates? Where do they see the most engagement and dialogue with customers? And this technology in these emerging markets is not something that brands are trying. It's something that they're doing. They're seeing amazing results with, and they're really not looking back. They're just investing more in these two-way channels. And we are seeing it in the US as well. Like, while it's not with business messaging, we're seeing it with ChatGPT or Claude or a lot of these other AI models. Even if you search something on Google today, it's conversational. I don't know when they made this change, but you used to see just blue links, and now if you look up who's the best ranked NBA team, you'll get a conversational answer right at the top from Google that answers that question. So like, the internet is moving towards conversational nature in the US. I think it's just taking a little bit longer than some of the emerging markets.
Will the US have, like your example, when you ordered that product that you forgot on your travel and it's delivered to you, was that including a third party like a DoorDash or a Shipt or something along those lines into that equation?
I think sometimes it does. Sometimes these retailers have their own shipping. That's not uncommon. I think particularly in India, this was in Mumbai. I think Mumbai has a population of over 20 million citizens. And it is amazing, the quick commerce capabilities that they have there. And I do see this emerging also in a lot of the other emerging markets. In these incredibly dense cities, you can order pretty much any item, and through the emergence of like dark stores, which are like cloud kitchens, unlabeled areas strategically placed over the city that stock inventory, and you can get all these items delivered, via companies like Zepto for about like 10, 12 minutes.
Wow.
It's a fascinating experience. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I think we have some good quick commerce emerging in the US and it's growing, but I mean, the price point and the speed is like unmatched in some of these emerging markets.
Yeah.
The technology,
Yeah.
it's amazing. Yeah.
It's gotten super expensive here, right? Like you go to
Yeah.
DoorDash is a perfect example. You're like, wow, those prices have gone way up. If you just go to the restaurant down the street, it's like much cheaper. Well, so you obviously have a passion for this, right? Like you've gone down this path of like where you're at Gupshup, but before that, you were at PayPal and Square, right? And you can explain like where you were, where you went, and then how you got here. And it's not like necessarily the backstory, but to say, yeah, I think this is the direction I want to go. Like, is it because it's time you spent enough time at a certain place? I mean, obviously money plays a factor and certain things. Is it opportunity in the future? Like, how do you identify to say, I want to go down this path, right? And I don't know exactly the date, so you can tell us that. But you're seeing something take shape. I mean, because those aren't, PayPal and Square are like massive brands and they're innovating too very quickly. It takes some audacity and guts to say, hey, I want to make this type of move. And I'm getting to the vision aspect of like an individual to say, this is what's best for me and my future, my career, my family, and all that.
Yeah. I love technology and I love learning. And those are like really the two things that I think really seek out first and foremost with roles. I mean, when I joined Square, I was at Columbia University and I had started my own business in college. I was doing a laundry, dorm cleaning, and water delivery service across a few campuses. And Square really enabled me to grow my business and accept credit cards at the point of sale. And just the technology was fascinating. Couple that with, I learned Jack Dorsey was the founder. He had also founded Twitter. He's just an amazing leader. And I was like, wow, the opportunity to work with amazing tech and an incredible leader. I just chased after that really hard and felt really lucky that I was able to, find a spot at that company when they had 100 folks working there. I think a little less than that. Yeah, I spent a lot of time there. I was one of the first salespeople at the company, spent a lot of roles before that in the just generalist startup business operations team and learned a lot. And I joined another startup, like a 10-person team, before that in the messaging space, got some experience there, learned more about marketing technology. And then after a few years, PayPal called me up and said they wanted to start a new business unit and it was going to be called Marketing Solutions. And I had the opportunity to lead that. And, PayPal is a really cool company and they have one of the largest two-sided networks in the world. I mean, they have, I don't know what the exact merchant number, but I think it's over 20 million merchants globally and then over 400 million consumers. And the ability to build technology that drives connections between those consumers and brands just was really exciting for me. And to work at the scale of PayPal that does over $20 billion in revenue a year, work with some amazing leaders there, manage large global sales team like I'd been doing at my previous company, but within a really large organization. I thought was a really cool challenge and working with a really exciting high growth company.
Yeah. You said, like put yourself in a perspective today of a young person, maybe in college or young in their career. And you talked about that time. It's like, oh, I want to go work at Square. Like, yeah. And you had obviously identified something. It sounds like it was somewhat early on in their process, right? You identified Jack Dorsey, but like you really chased that hard. Like, what do you mean by that? Like, how did you chase that hard?
Yeah. I was just actually at Columbia a couple weeks ago and there was a similar question. And maybe I'll take this, a little bit of a different direction. Like, I think a lot of students optimize today because tech is like very big now and it's, sexy and it's cool and there's up and all these exits and people think they can make a lot of money. So they kind of follow the VC funding or just like they think too much about the outcome. I feel like a lot of people think about that. And, for me, I'm like a big first principles thinking. I really, really believe in that. And I really knew the technology from using it for my own business. And I knew kind of the opportunities for it. I really knew the customer incredibly well. And it wasn't about the outcome. I was never thinking about that. I was really thinking about, wow, this is cool. I know how to use this. I know how to make it better. I love speaking to customers about this and love spending my time working on this. That was what made it really fun for me. I think kids in college really should focus more on that because I think startups give a tremendous opportunity for impact. I mean, I was just going to New York and, finance is really dominated there. And that's an industry that you have to just spend a ton of time doing a lot of grueling work from what I hear to like have true impact. But at startups, it's more of a meritocracy system. Like if you really uncover great opportunities, you execute them, you change the trajectory of these companies because very often they're starting from, smaller scale. Like you can have these, tremendous learning opportunities, which you can apply in bigger roles at that company, or you can, really just like learn these principles and, like trade secrets and apply them at other philosophies and processes and apply them at other companies as well. I think technology is a really cool arena where if you're really passionate and really love the technology and truly understand it, it can be an incredibly fun career path.
Yeah.
And rewarding as well.
In that moment when you saw that, you're like, I know this product, I love it, I want to be a part of it. Are you like then showing up at events? Are you calling them, emailing them? Like, how are you pushing that button?
Oh, yeah. That's
Okay.
such a great question. I mean, I was like the captain of our varsity rowing team. I had a full course load. I was on the national team at the same time. But I always found time to do this role. And I made sure I always showed up. And I think just that comes from, you find time for the things that you really enjoy doing. But yeah, I mean, my dad was driving me around. My folks lived outside of Philadelphia. Like he'd help me out every once in a while and like
That's
drive
cool.
me to like Harlem and Lower East Side and all around the city, going to these square merchants. And I had this paper list of like 40 merchants that I was like crossing off and getting them to sign up for different beta products. And I was taking the subway all around the city. I was, getting my friends and other guys on the team, their parents' businesses signed up via Square. Like that was just tremendous hustle. I think that's one of my, unique gifts is just really hustling at things that I want to go after. And I mean, yeah, I would have UPS boxes of like 1,000 Square readers in my dorm room, and I would be like in the elevator and be like, "Oh, you're the Square guy. Can I get one of
Yeah.
those?" And I was wearing the T-shirt around all the time. It just became part of who I was, and I was always thinking about, let's like crush my classes, let's do really well at rowing, and let's like sign up as many people for Square as possible. I had this URL squareup.com/NYC. And I got credit for anyone I signed up. And I think at multiple points, I was like the top activator in the country. It was really exciting.
You had they were paying attention. So if we talk about tech, there's obviously people who can code and they can do it and they're like really good. It comes easy to them. And then the other side of it is they're communicators, which obviously you can come on a podcast, you can have a long form conversation and carry yourself. I guess, what did you study in school? Do you consider yourself a tech person? Are you more on the communication side of like soft skills and all like, and obviously there's a hustle aspect to it. And I'm thinking about like people in college today say, well, I'm not really into tech. I'm not really good at tech, but I love tech. I just couldn't build you a product. But anyway, I think you see where I'm getting at with that. Like, what was your track with it? And what would you tell someone today? It's like, yeah, I was talking to someone recently and like, these companies didn't exist 10, 15, 25 years ago, even like a couple of years ago for some of them. So like what's going to come if someone's starting college today, what's going to be here in 4 years? I mean, geez, we have no idea. But anyway, I think you see where I'm getting at there.
Yeah, absolutely. Non-technical major. I major in political science. I was first and foremost like a really big student athlete. I was recruited to Columbia as the captain of our team my junior and senior year. And I think I learned a lot about leadership from my different coaches and teammates throughout that time. But I think what really gave me an advantage was like I always loved selling stuff. I came from pretty humble, like middle class family, and being in New York, there's so much opportunity to do stuff. And I knew that if I wanted to have fun, I needed to like make my own money and figure stuff out. So I started this business called Dorm Prep my freshman year. I saw this opportunity to help students by taking care of a lot of the things that like their parents might have done for them at home, like
Yeah.
laundry, dry cleaning, and beverage delivery. I'd actually go to like mothers dropping their freshman sons off and say, Our tagline was like, let your son focus on their schoolwork and we'll take care of everything else.
Yeah.
So we automated, a lot of those types of like microservices and put them into subscription packages. And I realized I'm like, okay, if I want to have reach at this and get multiple customers, I need to have Facebook ads. I need to have a website. I need to have payments on the website so that, I can save time selling and focus on rowing and school and all this other stuff. And they could find me online, send me a couple emails and make a purchase without even meeting me in person. So that desire of wanting to build this business and increase sales like really forced me to get to understand a lot of like basic technology. And then I think once I remember the moment I got my first like lead on a Facebook, someone who found me on Facebook ads and made a transaction for like $1,200 for one of our subscription packages through our website. And that for me was like, wow, okay, this works. Now I need to learn how to do it better. Then I started exploring all these other options and I found Square, which was in person credit card transactions. And that was another way to grow my business. So I think it's kind of like an indirect entrepreneurial path where I learned a lot there. And then after I really started seeing that, I was like, okay, I want to take some classes around this because this is cool and interesting. Building this website, took me many, many hours, but it was fun. There was a reward at the other end. And I ended up taking some information science classes, which you learn like basic like HTML and Python to do some coding. And even today, like just knowing how the internet works and knowing how, knowing just basic fundamentals of coding allows me to empathize, with our internal teams, allows me to understand the space, allows me to understand APIs. Also, I think one of the biggest things it allows me to do is like understand these like technology breakthroughs, right? Like many times in my career, I've like been like, okay, I know why mobile is engaging like on a technology level. Like it enables real-time event segmentation and the level of personalization is much more like instant and rapid than it was before on the website, where those like events are updated like 24 hours. And then like AI is like a total other level. It's like everything is like processed like truly in real time in natural language. And it's just another level of like a technology breakthrough that makes like even more personalization than mobile has. And just the technology itself is so advanced that I know it's going to grow and there's going to be more folks, that engage with it and are driven towards it. So I think it's just like that type of fundamental understanding that I think is really important and benefits students and today. Yeah.
Yeah. Each one of those things became an area of interest for you and that you can then dive into it. So it's not like you're just like, I'm constantly behind the scenes coding and doing all, because you hear about that. Because then you meet people that they have a lot of talent and skills, but it might not be behind a computer. But if they can learn the fundamentals of that, right? The principles, the basics, right? That type of thing, then you don't know. Because yeah, of course you're going to hire people, engineers and tech, right? But you're also going to hire salespeople and people who can go out there and communicate and aren't afraid to travel and go to networking events and talk to strangers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's also just having the view of, technology is a lot of building off of each other. See how technology is being used in the world, see how, brands across verticals are using it, brands across regions. And it's really constructive, there. Like I'm constantly seeing things that started, a year ago in India or Asia, and then they're starting in Latin America and just different markets are at different stages of maturity and kind of having this global view is really interesting.
Yeah. And going back to this college thing, like you go to Columbia and obviously you're playing the sport there, right? So I don't know what that looked like for you. And you obviously hear tons about what's going on in universities right now with how much it costs, right? To go to college, to then get a job. And there's this promise and, who knows what the economy is going to look like. We feel like we've been uncertain about the economy for the last 4 years since COVID. But what are you telling young people today, or what are you thinking about college? Because obviously Columbia is going to might perhaps give you an opportunity to get hired quickly by a Square or a PayPal or something along those lines, by your company. Like, what do you think about college today, the college experience, and then even throwing in there with all that you had going on of building businesses and talking to, and I'm sure you're like recruiting a team, and then you got your own sports team, right? That you're working on. Like, is there time for fun in that as well? So that's like the second part of the question. You can get to that, but like from the university aspect first, like what do you think about there?
Yeah. I mean, I think just the internet has expanded like your ability to learn. I think one of the most interesting things is I've had a lot of friends who graduated in non-technical backgrounds, like take a boot camp and learn how to code and get like a software engineering
Yeah.
role at like
Yeah.
Meta or Facebook. And I think the ability to learn and pursue these like non-traditional paths of, having to major in computer science has really opened up. I mean, I think you can learn anything on YouTube today and take a lot of courses there. Yeah, my personal view is like I think there's still a lot of value in universities, in the college experience. I'm starting to see it come back now after COVID, especially sports teams for me were just amazing. I'm still really close with a lot of the guys I rode with there. And just being a part of that experience. And I think, a lot of the different universities like really attract like great minds, people that work really hard, people that, have hustled to get there. I mean, American universities just in general are extremely competitive. And I think when you get those environments of just a bunch of young people together wanting to pursue the same passion, and a lot of like really great things can come out of it. I think a lot of great companies have emerged from universities. I think that will continue to happen. Yeah, just a few thoughts about that.
Yeah. You built a business while you were in college, right? And people graduate, they get a degree. That's good, right? You went through something. But a lot of times you're looking for, like, if someone wanted to come work for us and like they wanted to be a part of the podcast group, right? And they're an audio engineer, what we'd want to see is show us what you've done, show us what you built, show us what other podcasts you've done. Maybe it's just like hobbies of yours, like prove it, right? I know obviously social media is a big deal and like, okay, cool. If someone can do Instagram, like everyone can get on Instagram and make a post, but like show us your post, right? Or if you're a fitness instructor, like let's see your videos, what have you. Do you recommend, like, if someone's young to just start building something right now? I mean, it's clearly what you did, and that's where you seem to learn a lot and then find new areas of interest. Is that like a massive recommendation that you would have?
Yeah, that's like one of the biggest recommendations that
Okay.
I've had. Like I am just a huge believer in action and just creating some types of results to get a foot in the door. I mean, I was the kid who was like emailing CEOs of companies I loved, running, resumes, dropping them off at their front desk. Yeah, I think one of the perceptions sometimes is that, people just, there's like wanting something, but then I think there's like this level of like action and taking initiative. And I think that's particularly encouraged in startups. I mean, I was constantly in college, like coming up with new ideas for Square or other companies that I was interested in and sending them over. I was doing the work. I was starting my own business. I was using the product. I mean, I think that was an action that people thought was interesting. I'm like, why is
Yeah.
this guy who's really busy
Right. What's he doing?
selling
Yeah.
Square
Yeah.
and doing
Yeah.
this laundry business? But yeah, I think that's something like students should, and folks that really want to break into any new industry should chase after. And also, like, the ego is like kind of the enemy. Like, I took a customer support job answering support tickets, when I first had my first full time role there. And I just wanted to make an impact. I think sometimes you see a lot of folks from really big universities like set this minimum of like a starting salary or this specific title, but like when you're getting out of college, you're first and foremost learning how a business operates. Like you might think but you really don't until you've seen like a really well run, business operate and really experience that. And I think just, taking like just any role, any opportunity, at these great companies and just showing interest, showing that you're willing to put the work in, thinking creatively about it, all that really stands out.
Yeah. I remember my son was working at Chipotle. This is when he was like some years ago now, or a few years ago. And the price of avocados went up and he's a cashier. This one specific person came up and started yelling at him for the price of avocados, like the guacamole, like he had anything to do with it. And this is like a massive economic conversation that's being talked about in the Wall Street Journal. And somehow it's his fault that the price of guacamole has gone up. And so you have to calm that person down, have a good conversation with them, make them happy, and they leave the door because there's a bigger picture there, right? So that's customer service. Yeah.
That's a huge skill. Yeah.
Yeah.
People are like, this Square reader's broken. It's not working. I can't get sales. But you got to be like, okay, you gotta have ownership. You gotta be like, okay, this person thinks I'm Square. Like I work here. Like, let me do the best job I can to make them happy and fix this. And it's a huge skill. Yeah. It's a life skill.
And I don't know what time you woke up in the morning to go to practice. I think you all like row pretty early, or maybe it's pretty late.
Yeah, we rode in like 6, 7. I think we got the bus at like 6:30 or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously, like getting up, going, it's not like getting up, waiting around. It's like get up, go. And it's constant. And if you got recruited to do this, it means you were doing this from a young age where you're building like consistency, you're building habits. You're like, okay, I'm going to go through the struggle of waking up early and then eventually it's like you probably have more hours in the day that you're not sleeping, although you still need rest, right? But then you're doing those things. So it's like maybe perhaps showing up to those offices or sending an email like, why would you send that email? That's ridiculous. Like, no, but that's what you do. I would imagine that was instilled in you from a lot of like your sports background.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, rowing is a grueling sport and it's really competitive. For me, I was never really good at any other sports before rowing. So, I mean, once I started, I was kind of like, okay, this is my shot. I'd spent so much time trying to excel in basketball, football, lacrosse, baseball, and it just never worked. I'm like, wow. And it's just like had a natural ability for rowing. And one thing I love about rowing that really taught me is it's like there's a high correlation between inputs and outputs. The more you put in, the more you get out of it. It's like a volume sport. The more time you train, the more time you put on the erg, the better, your fitness is and the better your results are. And then if you have a really good coach who helps increase the quality of your inputs, then you have, even higher outputs because then the time you're putting in is multiplied and you're just getting, better results. And that really taught me like, okay, the more you put in, the more you get out. And that really expands a lot to the workforce. I mean, it's super true in sales. The more people you call, the more, leads you focus on, the more customers you sell to or market towards, the more customer relationships you're going to have. And then, if you start increasing the quality, you go after the right customers, you identify and go after the right customers, you have a really great price point, you understand the market well, and then you keep that same input, you're going to have a lot more output. And I think, yeah, just at a young age, kind of just rowing 12 months a year, 6 days a week for many, many, many years in a row and doing that at the Olympic Training Center at times. And just really showed me that like, it's no excuses. You got to have the inputs. That's the minimum requirement.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a couple topics that I want to finish with. One of them is just what we're doing right now is you're appearing on this podcast, right? People reached out to us, talked about it. Here you are. You're spending time. You're traveling across the world later on today. Obviously, your website at Gupshup's great, right? There's a lot of things you have going on. You spend a lot of money on marketing. Some things like you just talk about inputs, outputs. It's like you appear on a podcast. Like, I don't know yet. People are going to listen to it. And maybe it's like a communication thing. Like, what is it that you or that your team has seen to say, hey, yeah, we want to spend our time in this kind of media, right? Like the podcasting media, or, as we live through the election and this will air after the election, all that kind of stuff. Like we're seeing candidates show up on, that's where the attention's going now. But like, what do you see with your framework?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's what we talked about earlier. Like the world is shifting, to conversations and, we print media and just writing an article and having, a lot of ghostwriters write articles. Like, this is very different. It's more authentic. You get to understand, for Gupshup, you get to understand our brand. You get to understand, who we are as members of our leadership team. And I think that's why you see it in a lot of other areas as well. You get a real, feel for that person and who they are and their voice versus an article where it's text and it's just conversational. I think that's where the world's going.
Yeah. And the last thing is back to AI, call centers, customer service teams, they will be disrupted, right? And at the same time, it could be a better thing because I could then get into privacy. I could get into cybersecurity, right? So new opportunities are going to be created. As you look at it and you look at people getting concerned to say, okay, these types of things are going to take my job, let's say. And you talked about it before, like when you're talking about college students, like so many people are so focused on what's going to happen, what's the outcome, like what can you do in the meantime? But like when I'm bringing that up, and I'm sure you've heard this stuff before, like what comes to mind for you and Gupshup?
Yeah, I think technology is just always the future. I think it always has been. And I think just having that mindset of, okay, the world is changing, these new things are coming into place. I think it opens up a tremendous amount of opportunity. You can now start these businesses and you can engage with millions of consumers all around the world in their natural language. There's a lot of opportunities to bring new ideas to your companies that leverage this technology if you really take the time to understand it, help your team, help your business grow. That's always the angle that I take with technology and just being a real kind of student of it, is that it opens up a lot of opportunities. And it's going to open up tons of new jobs as well. It's a new skill set. And instead of being afraid of it, embrace it. A lot of history shows that, individuals and companies that embrace technology that's effective, grow a lot. So I think that's always, really the lens and angle that I look at it towards.
Yeah, that's great. So I had mentioned before, like Citi, I mentioned Netflix. These are like massive companies. What type of companies, obviously you work with them, but what type of companies do you work with? How small of a company can get it? Like, it could be a solopreneur. Is it only big companies? Like, what does that look like for Gupshup?
Yeah. Yeah, we really work with a lot of companies across BFSI, fintechs, quick commerce companies, retail, really any vertical and any business that wants to communicate with their customers at scale, build agents leveraging AI to, help them with sales, customer support across different channels. We really focus on WhatsApp and RCS today, but I think over time, there's many other channels that are emerging. We also have a lot of customers with voice, and a lot of other channels are emerging.
Yeah. And where do people find out more about Gupshup, and where do you want people to connect with you?
Yeah. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, or our website is gupshup.io, and there's a lot of great information there. Yeah, we also have these conversations events that our leadership team's doing. We've done them all around the world. We've done them in India, Sao Paulo. We just did one in Mexico City last week, and we have one in Saudi Arabia next week, and Indonesia the week following. So if anyone's listening from any of those regions, definitely find us there as well.
Yeah. We started this with your upcoming travel plans. Do you go to these events as well, or some of the events?
Yeah. I'm speaking at these events, and our CEO frequently goes to them. A lot of members of our leadership team are there. And they're really well-attended events. We just had at the Four Seasons in Mexico City. And we also have a lot of our customers. We have representatives from Google, RCS, and WhatsApp there. I think the space, for a lot of folks listening, it might be the first time, you're hearing about it. It might be a fresh take on a way to apply, AI and LLMs in your business. And what we try to do with these conversations events is just make them platform for us to, introduce our company, this space, speak with industry leading brands like Google and Meta and WhatsApp there, speak with our customers and just learn about the success and the results and the way the world is shifting towards conversations.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like you said before, in your path of how you got here and where you're continuing to go is just finding these areas of interest and just diving right into it, right? It's what we can do. So, yeah.
That's how I have fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it is, man. Well, this is fun. Mike, I appreciate it. Thank you for your time. I know you got a busy schedule, so thank you again.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. This was really, really fun.
This is a Quiet Loud Studios production, the podcast network where reflection meets amplification.